Hi, Siobhan.
Hi.
Hiya. Um, Let me just see. I'm just going to check the group. I just saw there was some messages of people who won't be able to make it. Okay. Hiya. Who's that? iPhone. Is that Chalana?
Yes, it's Chalana.
Hiya.
Hi.
Welcome in. Welcome in.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe a few I think we'll start. But maybe a few. Oh, here's Juliet. Um, Welcome in. Hi, Juliet. Let's get started because we've got quite a lot to get through today. So let's just get on and then we'll see if anyone else arrives a little bit later. So let's do our chickens as always, as we always do. Siobhan, how are you?
I am good. It's been a busy week.
It's been a busy week, did you say?
Yeah, it's been a busy week. Sorry, can you
Uh-huh.
hear me? I'm a bit too far away. It's been a busy week, but it's been good, productive. I've been also been working through some therapy stuff,
Hmm.
so that's been an eventful an event this past week.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think all good, progressing. So
Hmm.
that's yeah.
Wonderful. You're trusting the process. You're in your process. You're trusting it. Yeah, well done. Good for you for looking at this stuff and, you know,
Thank
yeah,
you.
well done. Thank you,
Thanks.
Shivan. Thank you. Chalana, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm sort of I've had an email account locked because I thought it was hacked, and then all these things happened and it ended up locked. And so
Ah,
I've just been sort of doing loads of admin, opening a new email account and transferring all my contacts and stuff. So I'm a bit in my head and kind of like feeling frazzled. But
hi.
um, yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay. I did a shadow work with Seed Talks on Sunday, I think it was.
Yes,
Um, that
that was the thing you shared, right? Did you share
yeah,
that in the
that was
group?
the thing I shared. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good.
How was it?
It
Yeah.
just it was good. It was by this sort of doctor of psychology who was also a relationship counselor,
Uh-huh.
and she was just oh God, I can't really remember all of it now, but it just made it kind of clear that
Mm,
the shadow is where the healing is, basically. Yeah.
mm.
That's what I came out with. I thought, oh, that's where the healing is. With all the stuff that went on and all the sort of technical talk and stuff, I thought that at the end. So yeah,
Yeah, beautiful. Nice way to summarize it,
yeah,
actually. Yeah, and it shows up in relationships. I mean, this is where we get to see our shadow, is that other people become our mirrors. Often the people that we are most close to, not necessarily know the longest, but yeah, that they
and
can.
actually also I've remembered it. It occurred to me that people were talking about their shadow like as if the shadow is bad
Yeah.
in the seminar. And I was just kind of thinking, is it? Is the shadow bad? Is my shadow all bad? I'm not sure it is, it might be good.
No, absolutely not. And according to Jung, he actually said that the shadow is the place where actually we can free up so much libido. So oftentimes when we are depressed or sad or struggling in some way, that there is some part of the psyche, i.e., the shadow, is communicating something to us. It wants us to look at something. And actually, when we look at it, when we engage with it, when we take care of it, like you said, when we take a step towards healing it, actually we can free up so much energy. And it's a real, it's like a place of our greatest fears, but it's also the place of like our greatest potential. So the shadow really represents that for me, at least, anyway, in my experience. The fear of not looking is what perpetuates the negative cycles. Whereas actually, once we start to look and bring consciousness, bring truth, bring light, things change, and they expand and they open up, and it's very beautiful. So, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that was good. I'm glad.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Chalana. Juliet, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm off work this week. I'm not going away, but it's just nice not to be working
Hmm.
and not caring for my mum. I'm just having a week for myself, so it's really nice.
Oh, good for you.
It's really nice. I'm struggling to get into it. You know, when you're still in that place you
Yeah,
were, and you're trying to move out of that and move into your. So I'm trying to mentally do that. So but I did want to say actually, I know this is only our fourth session.
can't believe it. Yeah.
But this course is, I mean, I can say this with great honesty, it's changing my life.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah,
that
it
gave me
is.
shivers. Oh,
Yeah,
thank you, Juliet. Oh,
it
I'm so
is.
pleased.
Mm.
Mm.
So thank you.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you for showing up. And I'm just so pleased. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, that means a lot. Thank you. May it continue to. Um,
Can I just say it's changing mine as well? I just wanted to add I've had very especially in the first week I had really strong
yes.
responses to what
Big
was going on,
movement.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't feel complicated. I don't feel sort of tense when I think about doing the course. I feel like it resonates really well, which is a really good sign. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
Thank
ditto
you.
that.
beautiful. Beautiful. I'm just glad. And that's what it's here for. So thank you. Alison, welcome in. How are you?
I'm kind of a bit all over the place at the moment. We've just had a call to say Granny's been taken to hospital. So,
Oh,
it's a bit, she had
yeah.
a funny turn last week and now another one. So it's getting a bit worrying.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
that's
All right. So
kind of where I'm at this moment. Lots always going on, lots of processing, lots of, yeah.
is she close by? Will you get to see her? Like, can you go and spend time
No,
with her? No.
she's in Poland, but we're due to go on not this Thursday, next Thursday for her 90th. So
Wow. So, okay. Okay. So either way, you'll be in Poland anyway. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Alison.
thank you.
Thank you. Um, did anyone do the home? Did anyone watch the documentary? Did anyone watch uh Finding Joe? So
Didn't
Juliet,
get
you
a
did.
chance.
Huh?
Didn't get a chance.
You didn't get a chance. Chalana, did you? I saw Alison, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. I watched it before the
Great.
weekend.
Awesome.
I yeah, it was good. So I'm feeling a bit hazy. I feel like I can't remember stuff right now, but I watched it before my email crisis. So but yeah, I'm sure if you talk about it, I'll remember it.
Well, I was just curious. It was more just curiosity. And I just wanted to see what you thought, if you had any thoughts. Um, obviously the recent revelations about Deepak Chopra and like, his name's like right bang in the middle. I didn't realize that until I shared it. And I was like, oh my goodness. But he's not fully in it, and it's not really about him. It's about Joseph Campbell. So I hope everyone was able to just kind of get through that side of it. I haven't actually seen it again recently myself, actually. Like since I've actually been teaching the course, I've watched it a few times. I haven't actually watched it again since I've done the course. So I need to actually like watch it again. But I'm curious for those of you who did watch it, yeah, if you had any thoughts. Juliet, yeah, did you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me of The Secret, the video of The Secret. I mean, he was mentioned in that. So it was kind of fair. It wasn't the same, but it
Yeah,
was similar. But and there was a lot that I took from it. I mean, you need to watch it more than once, obviously, because there's a lot in there. It's quite
yeah,
a lot to take in. But I liked a lot of things that they said resonated with me. Um, sort of the snake shedding its skin and the lots of deaths in one life, I really resonated with that so much. And I just thought, oh wow, yeah. And then it kind of gives you permission to have to understand that you do that. It's like everyone thinks, you know, life, you've got to be alive, you've got to be and I've never been never been like that. Never. I know I'm in this life and I'm in this body and I'm alive, but I've never felt this, whatever it is that they keep going on about, you know. And so the process, if in they described in the film, really resonates with me, because that's the processes that I've been going through. um and yeah, so it was there was a lot in there. There was a huge amount in there that I took away. um yeah, it was great. It was a very, very good film and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I remember, I mean, I was obsessed with Joseph Campbell for a little while. And then I came across the documentary and it was just like, whoa. It was like I remember it just being so like taking a big breath for the first time almost. And yeah, and like you said, this kind of normalizing of like human processes, which are actually like once we're like, oh, okay, that's normal. Like that's actually part of the process. That's part of the journey. It just frees up so much energy for us to enjoy life as it is, rather than how we wish it ought to be, or think it should be, or think we should be something. And that frees up energy for us to live the life that we actually is actually for us, that's actually right for us. So yeah, well done. Just thank you for watching it. I do recommend that, guys, that I mean, definitely for those of you who haven't watched it, I definitely say do check it out when you get a chance. It's feel good and it's yeah, like it's actually a very simple message in many ways actually, but I think it really complements everything that we are looking at in this course. So let's do a little embodiment practice. Let's do a little embodiment practice. So I'm going to invite you, as always, just to get nice and comfortable in your seat. And then just let your shoulders go, let them sink down. Let your sitting bones sink down into your chair or into the support beneath you. You can take a big deep inhale through the nose and slowly exhale, sigh it out through the mouth. Let your shoulders go some more. And if you can, start to soften your mind. And particularly if you've been working all day or if it's been a stressful day. Taking a few moments just to come back to yourself. And so it might take a few breaths and just start to find your steady breath. And then start to find your center, finding that place within yourself. Sometimes want to say maybe your true self or that place right in the middle. And just coming back, reclaiming any parts of yourself that are out there in the world, drawing them back, coming back to you, back to this moment, and back to your breath. Just feeling yourself letting go of the day, Letting go of your thoughts. Letting go of the to-do list. Unfinished conversations. Any tasks. And just keep coming back to you, your center, your safe haven within. Now, keeping the eyes closed, I'm going to invite you to take your right hand onto your left shoulder. And then you're going to kind of squeeze. I sometimes call it a squelch. So it's a kind of gently clasping your top of your arm. I'm going to invite you just to move your hand down your arm. So just taking this little squelch with your arm, just giving your arm a little squeeze, moving all the way down, past your elbow, taking your forearm. You can also squelch and squeeze your hand, your left hand with your right. And then when you've finished reaching the fingers, you can just relax both arms. Just noticing the difference between the arm that was squelched and the arm that was not. Maybe just taking a mental note of some descriptions of the sensation, the difference in sensation. And then, of course, we do the other side. So it feels very uneven right now. So again, taking your left hand now to your top of your right arm and just squelching, squeezing down, taking it down your body. Sorry, down your arm, should I say. And finishing with your fingers, your hands, giving them a little squeeze. And then again, you can just rest your arms when you've finished and notice. And then we'll do the face. So when we do the face, we're going to take our fingertips and then just squelch. You can take it from the forehead. Maybe you want to take it down to the temples. You're welcome to do your whole scalp if you want to. So almost like, yeah, like how you go when you get to the hairdressers and she gives you a head massage, washes your hair. You can do some of that if you wish on your head. And then you can come down to your face. So your eyebrows, your temples, your forehead, your cheeks, your jawline, your chin, and maybe your lips and your nose. But just these tiny little, just using the tips of your fingertips, yeah? You can even take it towards your ears, and do your ears, and then work down to your neck, the front and the back of your neck. Again, be gentle with the front of your neck. And maybe you want to take your shoulders and your collarbone. And then again, you can rest your hands. So once you've done that whole top of the body, you can just relax your hands and then again notice, just simply be present with the sensation. And then you're welcome to do the rest of the body now. So you can take your hands, do the squelching movement on the front of your body, your chest, down your abdomen, and then all the way down your thighs and your legs. It's sometimes hard. There's bits of the body that's hard to get to. Parts of the backs of the body, you can do the feet as well. If you can reach them, you could maybe do them one at a time. But it's just like you're giving them a little squeeze, a little squelch, a little squeeze. Just awakening them. Maybe take the lower back. It's quite relatively easy to reach. Sometimes you can take opposite hand under your armpit. Maybe get some of your thoracic. And when you've finished, again, you can just rest your hands. Breathe, notice. And just taking both your hands to your heart, one on top of the other. Again, coming back to your center, back to your breath. And then whenever you're ready to, you can open your eyes and come back into the space. Take your time. So did any words come up? Anything you notice about that exercise?
I'm ready to sleep now.
Huh?
I'm ready to sleep now.
Ready to sleep. So it's good. It's brought you in touch with a feeling that you weren't in touch with before, but that was present. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Thanks, Siobhan. Anyone else? So no? Okay. It's an exercise that brings sensation to the surface. So it kind of puts us in touch with kind of what might be there, but we're not fully in touch with, if that makes sense. So it can be easy or difficult depending on what's present. So yeah, for you, Siobhan, there's some tiredness, which is not surprising. You've had a really busy week. And so yeah, it's just putting you in touch with that. So just knowing that this exercise is, I mean, I know we're all highly sensitive. We're all working with a lot already, but sometimes this can put you in touch with the real sensation. Yeah, like you're the immediate one that's in your body. So just remember, you've always got that if you want. All right. Okay. So let's get started. Are we ready to dive into this week? I couldn't believe it actually. I was starting to do the lecture and I was like, oh my goodness, we're in the fourth week already. Like it goes so quickly. So I am going to, of course, share my screen and we'll get our lecture up. So this week, vulnerability and power. Hold on. How do I slideshow? There we are. Vulnerability and power. Not two words that often go together, I imagine. So, I think many of us will have connotations about what vulnerability is, what power is. And this is really the crux of this course, really, which is how does our vulnerability become our power? I think we've touched on it, and again, we'll keep touching on it, and we've touched on it already. But this whole this week, this is really connected to what we find vulnerable about ourselves and how we can gain power from that strength. Yeah. So as you know, they're not thought of together, right? Often power is associated with brawn, strength, and vulnerability is associated with weakness. But when we start to understand spiritual strength, we start to see that the capacity for vulnerability is actually the capacity to be in your heart, which is what power is. But it's actually something that's incredibly vulnerable to do. That's why it's courageous. Yeah. Being courageous isn't the lack of fear. It's the presence of courage in the face of fear. Yeah. So what that says is that there's a vulnerability there that we are able to face and actually do what must be done. And that's powerful. And actually, when we start to understand this, we see love is courage. It's a courageous act because it's incredibly vulnerable. It is our vulnerabilities that make our actions courageous, therefore powerful. Yeah, so it's a kind of different way of framing things. Like I said, we're currently living in a world, in a paradigm that valorizes strength, violence, disassociation, invulnerability, lack of sensation, lack of feeling, repression. These are considered strong, but actually, this is not the case in any spiritual sense, anyway, at least. Because actually, it's our capacity to maintain a connection with our humanness, with our sensation, with our vulnerability, with all these feelings that we have, particularly as sensitives. To remain in touch and still move through life with an open heart is an incredibly courageous thing to do. And it's not easy. Yeah. So when we talk about, referring back to the hero's journey, ultimately this is often our sword in the stone, if you want to say, yeah, our kind of nemesis. This is usually the thing that we find most difficult to face, is often where our greatest victory can be found, but these are not easy. So it's actually an incredible amount of strength and power. Okay. So has anyone here? We want any tarot readers here? Anyone who likes the tarot? Yeah. So those of you who are, you'll be familiar with this card. It's number 8 in the tarot. It's the strength card. And it's associated with the sign of Leo. And so I chose this card because I think this, for me, kind of epitomizes what I'm talking about when I talk about vulnerability and power. And it's a kind of spiritual power, right? We know the cards, their symbolism. There's a symbolism here, right? We've got the king of the jungle, the lion, the ferocious lion here, acting like a little pussycat. Why? What? Because he's been whipped? Because he's been beaten into submission? No, because he has been tended to with nurturance, with care. Obviously, we know in the tarot, white symbolizes purity, kind of feminine essence, even the blonde hair. I mean, I know it's not PC, but it's a representation. Yeah, it's not literal. It's a metaphor. Yeah, of what is basically a pure heart. Yeah, and I always think of these two as symbiotic, really. Actually, these two, this relationship between these two forces are actually very important. They're like part of the architecture of existence itself, which is, and it's actually, I mean, you see it in the Kabbalah. I don't know if any one of you who are familiar with the Kabbalah, where you have these two poles. You obviously got your central channel, but you've got the two these two far ending poles that create the tree of life. And one is mercy, right? So this is the line that's associated with, tenderness, love, compassion, care, nurturance, etc. And then you have the other line, which is severity, which is associated with sternness, boundaries, yeah, like being able to defend it if you need to. Those two energies work as one. You cannot have one without the other. Yeah, because if you have too much severity without tenderness, then we have authoritarianism, we have violence, we have we have disconnected, mindless kind of attachment to power and and control, etc. If you have too much mercy, tenderness, compassion, but without the boundaries, without the protection, then actually this is what allows evil to proliferate in the world. Yeah, because we allow. So we understand that these two go together, that actually these two forces work together for a greater good. Yeah, so maybe we could say a spiritual, I mean, definitely in the tarot, any of these, and pretty much, I guess, my own approach and my own conceptualization is everything spiritual. But it's that this is how we maintain balance, yeah, in life and in the world. And so I see these two as symbiotic, right? Which is that she offers the lion some tenderness, a kind of softness that he wouldn't otherwise be able to access. And he offers her protection. He protects her capacity to be in her tenderness. This is what gives her power. Yeah. And it's also represented by the lion, which we know is associated with courage. So it's also even implicit in the symbolism of this card. And so sometimes I think, sometimes without sort of saying, like, I hope this kind of it depicts kind of what I'm saying, or what I'm trying to get to here when I talk about vulnerability as power. It's these two things, yeah? It's our capacity to be in our tenderness, but also it does need to be protected. Yeah, we can't just have this endless, streamless, never-ending, infinite resource of compassion for all things. No, because actually the line has to fall somewhere. Yeah? It has to be protected. That's the only way it can flourish. And many of you know this already. When we talk about boundaries, actually boundaries are there to protect that energy of care in the world. Yeah, without it being protected, it's vulnerable. So these two work together. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any reflections, thoughts? Anyone want to add anything? Okay. So, oh, Siobhan, yeah.
Just a quick one, sorry.
Please.
It seems like with a lot of these things, is not the right word. I can't think of the right word now. But with a lot of these concepts, balance does seem to be the key, like the ultimate and the key to all of these things, eh?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this within any Eastern culture, religion, this is so much more explicit, right? We have yin and yang, for example, right? Which is, hey, we have this, but we also have that. And actually, spiritual maturity is our capacity to hold duality, hold the opposites, because ultimately we're living in a world of polarity. Man, woman, heavens, earth, like, literally we live it night, day. Yeah, we could say this is in so much of our everyday lives, right? And what actually strength is the capacity to hold the balance, or the tension, sometimes it's called in Jungian terms, the tension of the opposites. Yeah. And it's not always that things are balanced. Yeah. So we have to understand that life isn't always balanced. Like, we're trying to get back to balance. Again, even that's the nature of our nervous system, right? We have parasympathetic, sympathetic. We have the in-breath, the out-breath. Yeah. So we have these two states. And homeostasis in the body, at least, is our need to get back into balance, right? So if things do go out of balance, that's part of life. But we also recognize that they can come back into balance as well.
That's a bar actually. Like balance is you have to balance with unbalancedness. Yo, that's crazy, man.
It's yeah. But when we talk about nervous system, I think that will be yeah, you'll understand even more. Yeah, it's a paradox. It's just this constant paradox, which, like I said, I think the Eastern philosophies and religions, I think, really have a hold on it and a grasp of it in a way that, yeah, we don't see so much in the West, I feel.
Yeah.
Mm.
Cool stuff, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Siobhan. Anyone else? Did I see someone else move? Yeah, Juliet.
Do you not think that sometimes we need to unbalance ourselves in order to understand where our balance actually needs to sit?
Absolutely. 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 Out of chaos is order. Even in like the Hindu pantheon, we have Krishna, we have Shiva, right?
Yeah.
That sometimes things need to be destroyed, sometimes things need to go into chaos, sometimes things need to unravel a little bit in order for them to be think about even when you I don't know about actually no, maybe this is just me, but like when I used to tidy my house, for example, and I used to have like a big clear out and a big sort of clear out in my house, a reorganization. It starts with just getting everything like on the floor. It's an absolute mess. And then I can filter through. All right, what am I keeping? What am I throwing away? Where does this go? How do I want to reorganize this shelf? How do I want to put my clothes back in the closet? Like it kind of starts with mayhem and chaos, but actually out of that order comes. So yeah, absolutely. A life is almost a constant. And we could again even say this is why I love somatic so much, because we feel this in our body. The inhale is kind of the place of like, woo, pure potentiality. Everything's open. Exhale is the place of like where it lands, it settles again. We know where we are. The kind of balance is there, but it's both constant. Yeah, and actually, I might send you a video by Michael Mead. Actually, he's one of my favorites. We do cover Michael Mead maybe next week or week after next, I think it might be, when we do archetypes and mythology. But he talks about these kind of three parts of life. I'll send the video in the group because I really love it. It's like something I come back to over and over again. And he talks about there kind of being the kind of static and kind of stale, like the kind of like normal, what we would say like normal every day. And then we have like the chaos, right? And then we have the kind of peace and the place of like compassion and connection and love and joy. But actually, you can't get to that third place without going through the middle. And actually, we have our normal, stable, but every now and again, that has to crumble. It has to fall apart in order for it to be brought back together again with more integrity, more authenticity, more truth, I want to say. Yeah, Juliet?
Sorry, just one more question, because as you're talking, I'm thinking of more things to ask. So I'm going to try and make this make sense. Does your vulnerability affect where you end up, where your balance is? Because obviously my balance isn't going to be the same as your balance, and so we're all balanced differently. So is the fact that I am an empath and I'm open and I'm vulnerable and whatever else affect where my balance is?
I think that's a really good question. Really good question, Juliet. Yes and no. Like yes and no is what I would say. Is that yes, in the sense that obviously your unique constitution is obviously your inner balance is going to be very unique to that. And then no, in the sense that um is there something almost different that you have to do as an empath, as a highly sensitive person? Is that kind of what you're asking? Is that the kind of sense that does your balance look different is in some way?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, where my balance falls is affected by so many things that I don't know exactly where my balance is yet. I haven't worked that out. So
and when you say
that's
it's affected by different things, do you mean these things outside of yourself or do you mean inside?
no, I mean outside
Yeah.
and how they affect me inside. So yeah, outside, I would say. I think you have to have a lot of trust in that. You have to know, okay, this is where my balance is, and you need to trust that that's where your balance is, because I think sometimes we don't trust that's where it is,
Yeah.
and we think, no, actually I think it should be over here, but
Yes.
over here doesn't quite work, and then you think, no, actually I think I need to move it over here, and that doesn't work, and you kind of flail around until you try and find. I haven't quite found mine at the moment. But, yeah.
I think you're touching on something that I think is really important. You're really asking, like I can kind of feel around, like kind of like what you're getting at, you know, because I feel it, which is that our vulnerability is the thing that we actually need. Yeah. It's not the thing that we think we should need. It's not the thing that we think we shouldn't need. It's the thing that is. And it is a kind of moving, I don't want to say it's a moving goalpost because it isn't, but life interfaces with us at different times and is calling for different things from us. And our balance is that necessity to be in tune with that makes us who we are and keep coming back to that. And it's normal, like relationships, life, work, things, they bring us off our center, right? But it is that sense of our vulnerability of who we actually truly are that we always are coming back to. And that's where we keep finding our balance. And I think when we do that enough times, then we can start to maybe anticipate situations and things like that. But I do really think like there's a certain part which is just a case of like learning, okay, this is what I need, this is who I am, this is what I can and can't do. And also knowing that changes as well. You know, that also changes, that doesn't always stay the same throughout our lives. So we could say this is just a way of tracking yourself, like really, really staying in tune with yourself as well. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, completely. Thank you.
So let's look at what vulnerability is, because I know it's it's quite sort of nebulous word really, actually. I think it's important to like clarify it. So this is our capacity to be open, sensitive, honest, in touch even, I want to say, like really in touch with the sensation, really in touch with what we're feeling. So oftentimes we're like, yeah, I'm not feeling that, I'm feeling this. And actually, if you dig a little deeper, it's like, oh, actually, is that really what we're feeling? You know, so is that real in like that capacity to be in touch? Even when that feels difficult or uncomfortable. Yeah. It's the capacity to be with those things and not just skate over them because it's like, oh, that's a bit difficult. That's a bit uncomfortable. I don't want to, you know, and that's normal. But even just acknowledging and recognizing that. Yeah. So what vulnerability is not, let's start with what it isn't. Yeah. It's not oversharing. Yeah. It's not oversharing with people, telling them all about really personal things about yourself when you don't know or don't trust that they have the capacity to hold it. Yeah, that's the first thing. That is not vulnerability. It's a kind of act of self-harm, actually. Allowing people to overstep your boundaries, that is not vulnerability. Again, this is not the endless, infinite capacity to be compassionate and loving and all kind and all tolerant, you know, and just letting people do whatever they want to you. No, that is not vulnerability. Again, this is an act of self-harm. Moving purposefully towards painful situations or people that have shown themselves to be harmful, untrustworthy, and you know we still kind of sort of knocking our head against the wall hoping that we're going to get a different answer or a different response or a different person or you know or experience something different in a situation in which we already know that actually is very harmful for us. So again, this is not vulnerability. Yeah, this is kind of putting yourself. Yeah, so we have to keep making the distinction that being vulnerable is, yes, it puts us at risk of like being uncomfortable or experiencing even maybe even emotional pain, I want to say, but it is not about putting yourself in harm's way. Yeah. So vulnerability is not also being open all the time. You know, it doesn't mean everyone needs to know who you are, everything about, you know, it doesn't, you don't have to. Yeah. Some people don't deserve that part of you, and that's okay. Yeah.
When you say it's sorry to interrupt, but when you
Yeah.
say it's self-harm, do you mean putting yourself in harm's way if you overshare, for example? Is that
Yeah.
you mean harm of other people's sort of assessment or judgment of you or something else? What do you mean by self-harm?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a few different things, but yeah, I mean, essentially, it might be a case of someone who's not trustworthy with that information. It might even just be someone who can't hold like who you are, like, you know, who essentially kind of so for example, I had a friend and I loved her dearly, but she's not someone I can share certain things with, yeah? Because actually the way that she would hold actually what was very sensitive and very important things to me, they weren't held with care. Yeah? So when I would share, it actually made me feel worse. I would just leave a conversation feeling worse about myself. And so I just realized that actually this is not somebody I can be vulnerable with. And if I'd have carried on being vulnerable with that person because I was like, well, they're a friend and and she doesn't mean harm and you know, and I knew all of that. But actually, no, this is things that are important to me. And no, I want them shared where they can be held with care. Yeah. And that's what that so that is maybe an example. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that someone was specifically malicious or anything like that. Certainly not. It doesn't have to be. But it just means that where places where, for example, another example, I remember an event where there was a performance where there was a kind of open mic and one woman got up and she was doing kind of poetry spoken word, but it was a kind of freestyle and she ended up just telling the whole audience about her history of abuse and history of like things that she'd been through. And some would say that that was empowering, you know, in some ways she's getting up, she's telling her story, right? But on another hand, it felt uncomfortable, and not in an uncomfortable way as in like, oh, that these are difficult things and we shouldn't talk about them. I mean uncomfortable in a sense that actually, does this audience deserve to hear your deepest inner crevices of your pain? Like really, are they the right is that the right place to place that, and can they hold it? And is that a healing act, or is that a kind of act of oversharing? I just want to get it out. I just want to share it. I just want it out of me. Yeah, we want to be mindful of that because it can cause more harm in the longer term. It's not actually a healing act. Does that make sense? Do you understand that? Does that make sense, Shalana?
Yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm the queen of not sharing, and then I suddenly realized I should have shared more, and I get confused about sharing. But I just have a builder at the moment who I need to use as a builder, but he comes in and tells me absolutely everything about himself and everybody else around him, like in a stream of, you know, something or other. And
Mm-hmm.
it really it puts me in a difficult position with him, and it's just something that's going on. So I just thought I'd ask the question. But people really overshare in social media and stuff at the moment.
Yeah.
It's becoming very, very common, and
Yeah.
I guess people are learning more to hold a space for that because people are just doing it. I mean, I don't do it myself, but
Yeah.
lots of people do.
Yeah, and it's a hard balance because who's to say, right? Who's to say what's a true, authentic share for somebody and for somebody else that might be different? I mean, I definitely say that as empaths, generally you will get people who will want to tell you their whole story, their deepest, darkest crevices of their life and how they feel about that. And it's because you will be seen as somebody who is safe, like somebody who can hold that, somebody who can witness that. And actually we know this, like even in therapy, like therapeutic spaces, right? The act of sharing or externalizing what's within us, our vulnerability, yeah, and it being held in a way that actually is very caring is actually what makes healing possible. So we know that we do need a witness, yeah. So we got to make the distinction between oversharing with people that can't hold and a space where it is safe for us to reveal who we really are inside, and know that actually that's actually a healing place where it can be accepted, it can be held. It can be, like people can be curious with us and things like that. So it's just mindful of that difference. And oftentimes, and this might be the case with your builder, Chalana, oftentimes the oversharing reveals places where we haven't been able to share our story, be held, be witnessed, be seen, and it reveals where there's been a lack of care, actually. Yeah. Because it's almost like, like I kind of sense with your builder, I suppose, that there's probably no one else that he's been able to talk to, maybe even his whole life, who knows, where suddenly he's like, this is my opportunity. Like I've got to get this all off. I've got to tell someone, because we do need witness and sharing. But it is like when it's not safe to do so, that's not vulnerability. And it's our responsibility to keep ourselves emotionally safe. Yeah.
This thing that's going on about mental health and people talking about their mental health all the time is quite tricky as well, because that's one thing he does to me. He keeps going on about his mental health. And it's just something that's going on, really. I don't really know what to say, but
yeah. It's a hard one. I mean, I think I could say a lot on that, but I feel like I might be going off on a tangent. So, I think a lot of what, I mean, just on the point of social media, not on, I mean, mental health is a big subject. But on the subject of social media, at least, we got to understand that platforms are, rewarding like kind of interactions. Yeah. So it's kind of like they're saying, hey, so oftentimes, is it really vulnerability? Is that really what's taking place? Are people genuinely being vulnerable? Or are they using whatever content they have as a means for having content and gaining more traction, engagement, attention? And again, I think we have to make the distinction. And I'm not talking about specific cases here, but also recognizing that social media has its own reward and penalization system. And so what you often see on social media is not really like authentic, real human expressions of like, these are often very contrived for engagement, so yeah, just would say just be mindful of that, of what is again genuine. Yeah, real vulnerability is authentic because it's real. It's not the performance. It's not the performance of vulnerability. It's not crying for the camera. I mean, who does that? Who's like, I think I'm about to cry. Oh, let me put let me put the camera and then like cry for the camera and then share it on. So I mean, this is wild. What on earth are we doing? Yeah, like that's not, we know that is not authentic. Yeah. So we know that. So again, vulnerability is what's real because that's what's really, it's a bit more uncomfortable. It's not performance. Yeah. It's what's here right now and in the realness of it. And that's what makes it vulnerable, you know? It's being with our truth, our shadow and our light, knowing that we are both, we're holding both. Ugh, that's not easy. Ugh, that's vulnerable. That's hard. Yeah. Loving and caring is vulnerable because we could lose. Yeah. When we love someone, we can lose them. It makes us incredibly vulnerable when we care for others and have an open heart. Allowing ourselves to be seen as we are, not as the image or the persona or the glamorous or whatever, like, however we're trying to, make people perceive us. It's allowing ourselves to be seen as we are. Ooh, in the raw light of who we are. And I
Just
also
a
want to
quick one
say,
on that. Sorry, man.
yeah,
When I was doing a whole lot of nervous system research and stuff,
uh-huh,
there's one of the things that I picked up was like when you actually it feels it's very it's very discomforting, if that's even a word, to be like out there and to be like fully seen as yourself.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was living through others kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
when I was actually like becoming myself, it's like it's a very difficult thing to just be seen like that. So yeah, it makes sense what you're saying.
100%. 100%. We'll talk about nervous system in the next slide. Because there's a lot of shame involved usually. Yeah. So it actually can be very difficult for us to allow ourselves to be seen. But again, it's incredibly healing to be held by someone else. How many of us are over functioning who don't ask for help, who do everything by themselves? Yeah. And who are like, and who, when someone finds out, hey, why didn't you tell me? I could have gone to the shop for you. And you're like, no, it's fine. I was fine. It's like, that is like uncomfortable. I don't want to be seen in need. I don't want that, but for someone to be able to hold you in a time of need and step in and hold you and be like, I'm here. What do you need? Oh, that's incredibly vulnerable, like in a real sense, in a real, when we really need it, it's incredibly vulnerable. So this is what vulnerability is. It's connected to authenticity. As you know, I don't know if anyone of you know Brené Brown, the Queen of Vulnerability. I definitely would recommend checking out any of her work, any of her books, any of her talks on YouTube, obviously. I mean, I think she definitely would say it better than me, I think. But yeah, for more, if you're interested in that, she has this
Can you repeat her name again? Sorry.
Brené Brown. I'll share her
Brené
talk
Brown.
in the she's on Netflix and on YouTube. So you should find she has two really kind of main talks that kind of really made her famous, and then she's got a few different books. And she talks about what vulnerability is, and she talks that it's built on trust. It really is built on trust. So and then she has some work on trust as well. So okay. So let's talk about resilience. So this is kind of connected to nervous system and maybe a little bit of what we kind of talked about. Because it's resilience really that gives us power. It gives us the power to essentially alchemize, really, I want to say, our vulnerability into power. I feel like resilience is the vehicle with which we do that. And it's our capacity to bounce back after adversity, setbacks, or challenge. And it's our capacity to heal after pain, and the way in which we use those moments to expand our bandwidth, our knowledge, and our strength. So again, I want to make the distinction. Resilience is not soldiering on. It is not repression. It is not ignoring our needs. It's not shutting down. It's not being tough and hard. And, it's not that. It's the resilience is our capacity to integrate and fully hold our experience in its entirety, and with all its complexities and contradictions, as we said, the opposites, the tension of the opposites, all of the uncomfortableness of almost, maybe you want to say, open threads, things that sort of sometimes don't end up being resolved neatly and nicely in a nice little neat box. It's our capacity to hold that and expand our bandwidth to hold that. And this brings us a depth and knowledge. And so what resilience also gives us, as we saw with the hero's journey as well, right, is that once we've been through rounds of resilience, then we know that we can bounce back. So now I know, okay, I can, I have the capacity to heal. Yeah. And this can make us more courageous in our lives. And it means that we know that we can face challenge with courage and faith. And we know that we have tools and the capability and the resources to face what must be faced. And so we trust that we can emerge on the other side with the elixir. And I always say, like, we never come out of the battle unscathed, untouched. I think I said this in another class, which is that, we never, like we never go back to who we were before, that person, and there is a certain amount of grief as well that, oftentimes when we're becoming a new person, a new version of ourselves, through the act of resilience, through the act of growth, growing beyond or bigger than our experiences, there is a part of ourselves that is lost in that. So I always feel like actually even part of this is the grieving process, which is also an incredibly vulnerable thing to do. But it doesn't mean that we're not able to move forward, you know, to grow, to get larger, and to become resilient. Yeah. So this is the role of resilience, particularly in trauma, particularly for any of us or any of you who have experienced any kind of trauma in your life. Resilience is, I don't want to say the healing, I want to say the capacity to extract the wisdom from our experience. And that can take time. That definitely doesn't happen overnight, particularly if, you know, particularly if it's something very impactful, painful, challenging, difficult. But we also need to remember that we can do hard things, difficult things happen, and we can win on the other side of that. Yeah, that there's a process. And I think resilience connects us to that and says, I can do it. Yeah, it's possible. Good things are on the other side of this. You know, it kind of keeps our strength to face life, you know, without cowering, without shutting down, without disassociating, without withdrawing, you know, and these kinds of things. And we suffer when we do that in our lives. Yeah, we suffer when we do that. But also other people suffer from not experiencing our magic, your unique magic in the world. Yeah, it deserves to be out in the world. Okay. So let's talk about nervous system now. Because this is incredibly important. I mean, it probably deserves more than one slide because it's massive. I mean, yeah, I do hold 2-hour lectures on nervous system. So this feels like so like, oh, how am I going to compress this? But essentially, all I really want to say here is, and everyone knows nervous system is a really big, it's very big right now. It's like very, like everyone's sort of talking about nervous system, as they should actually, because it's our central interface between our body and the way that we perceive the world. It's literally designed for that. Yeah, it's the relationship between our body and how we perceive the world. So if we're perceiving the world dangerous, if our bodies feel dangerous and scary, then the world is going to feel dangerous and scary actually. So this is why somatic work, body work, we work with the body, not the perception. Yeah. So that's why, you know, some of that kind of like affirmate, just keep telling yourself, just keep telling yourself, just keep telling yourself. And you can tell yourself till you're blue in the face. If your body doesn't believe it, that's not going to shift. Yeah. If your body doesn't believe that affirmation, nothing's really going to change. So we always want to be working with the body. In my humble opinion, as a somatic coach as well, like, you know, I'm really, really, the more and more I do the work around somatics, the more I recognize, particularly for empaths, is that this is where we hold everything. And this is where we really want to be interfacing with directly, because the mind is all the shoulds and shouldn'ts and everything that happened, but the body is like direct knowledge. Yeah. So let's talk about allostatic load specifically. So allostatic load is what we could call our capacity. Yeah. So cumulative effects of stress on the body can affect our allostatic load. As we know, this is how the nervous system works. That it's designed, even though we talk about homeostasis, when we talk about things going out of balance, coming back into balance, we know that the nervous system is elastic. It's supposed to be like, ah, boom, back down. Your body is constantly, we are in a relationship with life. Yeah. We need to be, you know, like I need a bit of sympathetic energy to get myself out of bed in the morning. Yeah. I need that. I need to get up and get out. I've got to get things to do with the day. I've got work to do. You need that energy, right? So that's what that energy is for. When I need to wind down, I need to slow down, I need to eat, I need to sit down and eat, I need to go to bed, I need to rock my baby to sleep. Yeah. I need to be in a different zone and in different energy. Yeah. So our bodies are designed for this elasticity, this capacity to be in different states and different relationship with things in our lives. Yeah. So as we know, allostatic load is when we are too much there's too much stress on the body. As we know, trauma, too much, too soon, too fast. It's just our body can't process it. Yeah, can't process it. Now, I have to tell you, and I'm sure you all know this already, but I'm going to tell you again. As an empath, it is so important that you keep building your bandwidth and expanding your bandwidth. Why? Because you have got 1,000 different emotions, feelings, sensations chuddering through your body on any given day. We discussed this last week when we talked about the hero's journey. You could be doing a hero's journey in one whole day, in a few hours, even sometimes. I say to my friend, I'm like, we haven't spoken for 24 hours. And I'm like, mate, a lot's happened in 24 hours, right? I think all of you will relate to this, yeah? That there is so much happening in our bodies. We're so deeply sensitive. So your allostatic load, your capacity to build your capacity in your body. Sorry. It's like, what's going on? I've got a child outside playing with my cat door. So yeah, is going to help you with this processing, because the fact is, a lot of what we're doing is processing. Yeah, processing a lot of emotions or feelings. I have yet to find any other way of approaching this other than expanding your bandwidth. Yeah. Because that is what allows you to move through the emotions, let them come through, let them move through, let them come, let them go, be in that constant place of being able to be receptive and not losing your sensitivity. Yeah. So your allostatic load is your bandwidth. Yeah. It's your capacity. And it's your capacity to drop back in when you need to. So it's your capacity to experience stress and then also drop back into your balanced state, yeah, into your homeostatic state, we could say. When we are over capacity, we are dysregulated. Yeah, then we are in a place where we are not processing anything. And when we're not processing anything, it's building up, it's building up, it's building up. That's when life feels like, oh my God, it's all on top of me. Does this make sense? Yeah, you understand. I know. And yeah,
Sorry,
no, go on, Helena, please.
is it typical? This is going back a bit to what you were talking about before about tuning. Is it typical for an empath to be very finely tuned and sort of a bit like damned if you do and damned if you don't kind of thing?
Honestly, I don't think you can be too finely tuned. No.
Right.
You can tune yourself up. But what happens is if you are too porous and you do not have capacity, then you are going to be overloaded. Yeah, it's going to get all on top of you. It's going to be too much. If you are too, want to say like the boundaries are too blurred. Yeah. Again, it means that your body, your mind, yourself is not having enough time to process. Yeah. But when you can process, then you can be highly attuned. Yeah. So now suddenly you're in the realm of like potentially intuitive, psychic, instinctive movement. And I think empaths move in the world. Generally, I would say empaths move more freely in the world using that I want to say feeling function. Again, I'm coming back to Jung again. Yeah, it's like a kind of feeling function, where you just use your feeling senses as a kind of antennae and you're just moving through the world like that. That's when you're highly tuned, but you can only be highly tuned like that if you've processed. Yeah, if you're carrying excess, you will just be weighed down. Yeah. So no, I don't think you can even be too sensitive, in my humble opinion, if you attune and you know how to process all of your stuff. Yeah. And so these are some of the ways, obviously, that you can do this and you can increase this elasticity. These are some of the things that I would suggest if you want to work with this allostatic load. Exercise, of course, get the punching bag out if you need to, lift them heavy weights if you need to, go for that 10-mile run if you need to. Yeah, these are ways in which we burn off energy. Yoga, of course, I'm a yoga teacher. I would recommend yoga to everybody. Yoga is like it's like designed for the nervous system. It's like literally designed. Breath work, pranayama, as well. Like the way that we breathe, we notice it makes a massive difference to how we perceive. We take a big deep breath. Suddenly I'm in my body again. Yeah, it makes a difference. That is going to affect our way that we perceive and understand ourselves and the world. Juliet, jump in.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, don't, sorry.
I've always felt like I needed to climb out of my body.
Mm-hmm.
Had a huge difficulty being in my body in this life. It's been really, really incredibly hard. And all of this work is about being in your body, is about understanding how to be in your body, breathing in your body, grounding in your body. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's very difficult because you need your mind to have that knowledge that you need to do that. But it's still very, very hard to do that when you feel like you need to climb out of it.
Absolutely. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
And I absolutely understand because of the level of sensitivity, because of all these emotions, because of all of the things that you will be holding and carrying. Yeah, the body doesn't feel like a friendly place to be. It's the kind of thing of like, oh, this is uncomfortable, it's difficult, I don't want to be here. You know, I'd rather be somewhere else. Yeah. And I think disassociation, freeze definitely are responses that are perfectly normal for the body to make in response to like overload. Yeah. Which is when we talk about allostatic load, like you said, this is building your capacity to be in your body, to hold the energy of your body.
Oh, right. Okay.
And that takes time. You're right, Juliet. Like that's not going to happen overnight. Yeah, that happens with time, with constant connection, constant dropping down, constant sitting with what's there and what feels uncomfortable to feel, you know?
Yeah, because when you're talking about your bandwidth, there's a sort of a part of me that shudders at that because I'm thinking, I don't want to expand what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I don't want to expand the tension and the pain and the dissociation. I don't want to expand it. If I keep it small and contained, it's easier to manage.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I would say is the likely chance is that a lot of what you're holding right now is old. And actually, a lot of that could be moved through and let go of, and you would feel a lot lighter. And then when we talk about like that shadow work, like, and I don't mean it in like shadow work, get in, you know, but I mean the kind of like, a lot of the time we're holding things we don't even realize we're holding, you know, and it's weighing us down. And part of this work, it might not be to do with the everyday, it might be to do with like a whole 10-year backlog of things that are still yet to fully be processed in the body. Because the fact is, if you're not in the body, it's not getting processed. And what that means is then there is a catalog, a backlog, of things, and that is going to make the body to feel very uncomfortable to be in, because there is a whole that your body's going, we need to process this, we need to burn this off. I think anyone's seen it, you know, we talk about animals, for example, who do shaking, like they jump and then they shake their body, it's a physical thing that happens in your body where you literally, it doesn't, and actually doesn't require your mind. You don't even need to know what it is. You don't even need to know, was it that argument you had with your sister 10 years ago? Was it that time your grandma hit you with the spoon? It doesn't matter. But it's in your body. Your body knows, and it needs a way to process it, move it through. Yeah. And when you move through the backlog, like I said, getting fit is harder than keeping fit. You know, once you kind of cleared a lot of, then it's just a case of keeping on top of it. Yeah. You can think of it as like almost like a big processor, big computer processor. Like, you know what happens when the memory, when it gets clogged up, the thing don't work. It's getting slower and slower and slower. We need to clear up, and then it's working like a dream again. We can think of it like that. And for sure,
as you're talking, I'm getting a lot of pain in my solar plexus, and I'm feeling very emotional. Yeah. So that's a big thing I need to, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Go slow. That's what I would say. Go slow. There's no rush.
No, it's just
It,
I wasn't expecting that to happen.
It's yeah. And again, somatic work, any kind of somatic work is hard because it's slow, takes time. And often sometimes it's a bit at odds with our mind as well, because our mind has an idea of ourselves and who we are and who we should be, and our bodies are telling us a different story. And if we take the time to listen, that's where it's vulnerable. That's the crux of it. All right, Juliet, I hope you're all right.
I'm okay. I'm just going for a minute.
Okay, take your time. So as you can see, all of this list, things that you can do to help you build your capacity. Funnily enough, I am actually talking about the solar plexus next. So just want to say, notice that I put healthy relationship and co-regulation here as well. Sometimes we can't always do this stuff on our own. In fact, I would argue that none of this really moves the needle on our own. Actually, I would say the biggest leaps that you will make, it will be in relationship, whether that be a friend, a family member, a therapist, a love part, like a partner, someone you love dearly. Whatever that is, whatever form that takes, is so much of how we understand ourselves is through relationship, and healthy, supportive relationships that help us co-regulate, massive part of us expanding our bandwidth. Yeah. So it's just not something that I believe that we can only do on our own. So I included this quote talking about Instagram. I thought this was really nice. I follow this lady called Sophia Cycles. And she's like a Jungian, therapist. She's read a lot of books. She's incredibly well read. So she shares like a lot of like thoughts and work of like other Jungian therapists. And so I took this quote because I thought this is kind of the epitome actually of like vulnerability in many ways, because I link it to creativity, our capacity to be creative. So when we talk about things going out of balance, coming back into balance, as we know, how do we bring something new into the world? How does something new get created, right? So we could say that creativity itself is a vulnerable act. And so I've just put here, to be creative, you have to know how to be receptive, to be yin. And you have to know how to be at home with the ambiguous, the random, the disordered. And specialists have a poor tolerance for poetry and ambiguity. So, it's sort of saying that, like I said, if I'd had invented healing, I would have made it linear, to be quite honest, but it isn't. That's annoying because it's ambiguous. It's kind of like unknown. It's got like, it hasn't got really defined boundaries, whereas specialists in the world that we live in is a specialist world, right? Is that like, I know best, I've done the reading, I've done the research, I've done the experiment, and this is the answer, and it's yes or it's no, or it's 2 + 2 = 4, and that is and then we can be sure about things. But the world ain't like that. And actually the capacity to be creative and bring new things into the world relies on our capacity to be in the place of the unknown, in the place of the uncomfortable place of being receptive to what actually is, not what we think or it should be, or I just added that quote because I thought it was very nice. So creativity can be thought of as our libido, our energy. It's not necessarily sexual. It can be, but it's not necessarily. Our libido is our life force. Our energy to be in the world, right? And so this is what brings things into fruition. This is what drives us forward. This is what allows us to live the lives that we want to live. This is how we create energy in ourselves in order to do what needs to be done in our lives. So it can be an idea, a vision, could be a literal human being for those of you who are parents. But we can also think of it as alchemy. We know this is alchemy. This is what the creative process is. And so this is very important because it's your direct relationship to the earth and the universal forces of creation. This is how you start to understand how creation is, like, how basically to understand the rules of creation itself. Yeah. And therefore we get to understand what the world is made of and also what we are made of. So there's something about creativity that is very divine. It's always divine, actually. I think many people will know, like, you've spoken to artists, you say, how did you write that thing? Or how did you create that song? And oftentimes they'll say, it didn't really come from me. I don't know where it came from. It was channeled, and that's something I can definitely relate to. Having being very creative myself, is that it sometimes feels like that. You're just opening a channel. And in that you are starting to experience like the relationship with creative life force itself. And this is incredibly vulnerable because it relies on, this is where I feel like, again, we start to see the relationship between vulnerability and power. Because it's incredibly vulnerable to be so receptive, right? To open ourselves up to the forces of life, to channel through us so that we can then bring something forth, something new into the world. Yet when we bring something new into the world, it's incredibly powerful. It's an incredibly powerful thing to do. So I think creativity is, like the place where these two things meet. Yeah, vulnerability and power. Something that feeds us, invigorates us, and definitely increases our personal power. Yeah. I'd be curious if anyone's experienced this and know what I'm talking about here as well. Yeah.
So I play an Indian drum called the tabla.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah. Say that again.
Oh, I play an Indian drum called the tabla.
Yeah.
It's a percussion instrument. And I've been playing it for I've been into that and its sound and the mechanics of it all for a very long time. Since I was like, I think 2 or 3 years old,
Wow.
So it's always been something that I enjoy. Oh, the point that I wanted to make was sometimes after like a session or something where I really allow myself to just sort of be and like just play and see what happens kind of thing, you get that almost like you feel inside very like, I actually feel like vulnerable and like very shaky. That's the feeling that I describe it as, to just like let yourself just be and just channel, just like how you said, and just express it through that. So it's 100% makes a lot of sense.
Beautiful.
Although it's like such a scary-ish kind of feeling because you're really just putting everything that you are into it. It feels good. It feels good as well, because it feels like you're allowing yourself to just be all that,
Yes.
you know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And Siobhan, I love what you're saying because it's like you're really touching on it. And you see, it's so hard to put into words. I always feel like when we can't put things into words, it's the presence of the divine. Like it's almost like
Yeah.
it goes beyond words. It's an experience that is really felt. And I can
Yeah.
hear that I can feel your words is what I want to say as you're speaking. I know, I feel it, Yeah, and that's what I'm talking. And when I talk about this creativity, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, is that because it's both incredibly vulnerable and also powerful. It's like you're kind of channeling the energy of something divine, otherworldly, and allows you to bring something beautiful, new
Exactly.
into the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you for sharing. Did anyone else want to share? I thought I saw some other people unmuting. Let's talk about, I do want to talk about the solar plexus. Okay, no, actually, we talk about emotional intelligence. So I think we're touching on this. Oh my goodness, this is a big meaty lecture. I know there's a lot going on. I feel like we jumped in lots of different ways, but actually I think it's kind of a way of unpacking the same thing over and over again. We're trying to get to the heart of what's vulnerability, what's power. And there's these different ways in which these are our different access points. Yeah. And so some may really resonate with you, some will not, and that's okay. But it's the kind of our different access points to experience this thing that I'm talking about, this relationship between vulnerability and power. One of the things is emotional intelligence. It was a kind of coined by a therapist called Daniel Goleman. And he says this is what emotional intelligence consists of. And obviously, to be emotionally intelligent, it's one thing for us to be very sensitive and emotive. It doesn't necessarily automatically mean that we're emotionally intelligent. Yeah. All of us need to hone our skills, our emotional intelligence skills, even if we're deeply feeling. In fact, more so when we're deeply feeling, I would say. It's our capacity to be self-aware, obviously, to know what's mine, what's yours. Oh, yeah, like I do that thing sometimes, when, like it's just that awareness, self-regulation, that capacity to regulate yourself, to bring yourself back into homeostasis. Motivation, which is an interesting one. But this is our kind of, I want to say kind of I guess our self-starter energy, yeah? Like most people don't look at this stuff. Well, we know this, right? Most people are going through the world and really looking at any of this stuff and going into these deep crevices of our own psyches and things, and doing this healing work. So it does take a certain level of motivation to keep going, yeah? To kind of keep looking at things and keep sort of turning over stones and looking underneath. It does take a certain amount of motivation to do that. Empathy, of course. Well, you have this. That's the one you've got in the bag for sure. Yeah, the capacity to empathize with others, to see where other people are coming from, to see their position, their place. And then obviously social skills, which is being in relationship. Yeah, and we know this. It's not always easy to be in relationship, depending on who you're in relationship with. But oftentimes, for many of us, particularly us who grew up in like very individualist cultures, sometimes this is where our work is in building our capacity for more easeful, meaningful relationships. Your homework this week will be this meditation, this rain meditation, which is by Tara Brach. And she has this beautiful exercise for like locating how you feel, and kind of how to explore how you really feel, without it becoming overwhelming. So she has this really beautiful way of kind of showing how to become more self-aware. Like, I can't remember who it was who said earlier, maybe it was Siobhan, but like even the exercise that we did, it kind of put us in touch with, I didn't realize that was there today. You know what I mean? And it kind of really helps us connect to what's actually present for us. Like how do we really feel? So this is a really beautiful, loving, I mean, she's a Buddhist teacher. And she's just, she's like melted chocolate in the way that it's just like, you just feel, she just oozes like compassion, peace. So I always feel very held by her when I do this exercise. And so I definitely would recommend this as a way of increasing your own emotional intelligence and your own self-awareness. Because sometimes we think we know how we feel, but actually sometimes there's layers to it and we can discover new things. I can't tell you how many times I've done this meditation and been like, oh my goodness, that's what's going on. That's what's going on inside. Wow. Like, and I think I'm quite self-aware, and, I think I sort of know what's going on. But honestly, so many times I've done this and I was like, oh my goodness, actually, I've discovered new layers and new yeah, just new layers of awareness. So I couldn't recommend that enough. And the idea is obviously the more aware we are, the more empowered we are, you know. So let's talk about this solar plexus. I'm just looking at the time, and I really want to make sure we have enough time for our exercise today, because I want to talk about solar plexus because you talked about it, Juliet, earlier. I hope you're I hope you're okay now. But yeah, like your solar plexus for an empath is the most vulnerable chakra in the body. It is the place where
Sorry,
yeah.
it knocked me out. It happened last time, so sorry about that.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. But yeah, this is where the energy will come in, is through a solar plexus. So many of you felt it earlier, Juliet, but I'm sure many of you have also felt it, that feeling in your stomach where you're like, oh, like a train track is moving through your stomach. I have had that all my life. And I used to feel like I was just also, I went through my whole life thinking, I think I'm in trouble. I think I've done something I shouldn't have done. Like literally, it was a kind of anxiety that was always there. And then I was told that your solar plexus is your place of power. It's your place of personal power. And when I made that connection, this changed a lot, how I work with this energy center. It is the place through which other people's projections will arrive. They will land in your body. It is the place where you feel, where it's just the most vulnerable part of your body, because it's the place of personal identity. Yeah. And as an empath, because there's so much porousness usually, this can be the place where there needs to be the biggest boundary. And so there's different ways to deal with when energy comes into the body. Yeah. So I've put a few different ways here. So excavate and close. So sometimes this can happen if you've had on an immediate level where you've had an argument with someone and you just need to just take the energy out of your abdomen and then close it and place a shield, a golden shield over your solar plexus, block the energy, close it consciously. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. And it's been very interesting seeing other people's reactions. So be mindful with that. If you're dealing with someone who's very volatile, be very careful with this. Yeah. Like I said, excavation and block is like a kind of last resort. Yeah. You don't really want to do this unless you have to, because it can actually aggravate situations, particularly if someone really wants to get at you. Yeah. Blocking them can actually increase their frustration. So be mindful. This is all energy work. Extra protection. It's kind of when we just leave, if we're going to leave the house, I'm just going to put I just know I might be vulnerable. I just put the extra protection there. Another way that we can protect ourselves is to expand our energy, to actually grow bigger. Yeah. Because oftentimes, a lot of the times we shrink. Yeah. We shrink. Oh, okay. I'll just sit in the corner here. Actually, sometimes what you want to do is expand your energy. So for example, if you know you're going into a social setting, for example, you might want to do that. That might be a way, like if you have to go and do something or be somewhere. Sometimes I used to do this on the train even. Yeah. And sometimes even with man spread. Yeah. Sometimes someone will sit right next to you and just spread their legs. I would spread my energy. Yeah. And that was kind of a way of reinstating, matching the energy. So different tools, different energetic tools for different times, for different places. Yeah. You'll just know you've got a few different ways to do this. Dive in could be another one. So sometimes we're blocking. And actually what we need to do is be open. Actually, sometimes, for example, when you're listening to a friend, when a friend is, sharing something very difficult or something like that, or if you're, holding something really important or sensitive for somebody, you might want to just dive in. This is where your empathy skills are so precious, in the sense that you can fully just absorb them. Let it absorb, let it move you, let it touch you. Yeah. Whatever that might be. Sometimes that's okay. Yeah. And then it's trusting. Then, you need to have if you're going to do the dive in, you need to have the next one, which is transmute. You got to know how to clear energy when you need to. You've got to know how to shift and change it into something else if you need to. So you must never be worried. Yeah. Because I think a lot of the time as well, like, you know, again, when we talk about boundaries, a lot of the time it's just filling our heads with the mind that we always need to protect ourselves. We need to protect ourselves. We need to protect ourselves. But actually, you also need to know that actually it's fine. You can transmute energy if you need to. Yeah. I can chew it up and spit it out if I need to. Yeah. Like the digestion process. I eat, my body breaks it down and it goes out the other end the next day. Yeah. So it's like knowing that you can do that if you need to. Yeah. And just trusting that you're not always having to block, protect. Yeah. You know, that we have the means to move through process. Okay. I know I've thrown a lot of you today. I feel like I've been talking for so long. I'm so sorry. I must be sick of my voice, because I'm sick of my own voice at this rate. I hope this is all making sense. So last one, shadow work. I know we touched on it earlier, is the path of the heart warrior. Yeah. When we're talking about vulnerability and power, ultimately, it is the capacity to look into the shadows, or look into the places that are difficult to look at within ourselves. And it's only through the shadows that one comes to know the light. Because if we just shine the light, the shadow can get like stronger and deeper and darker and harder, right? But it's actually moving into it, bringing light into it, that it lifts, it opens. That's what brings the light. And so I'll just read this. Our shadow offers us that so much that is fruitful material for self-understanding. And for the empath, the reason this is particularly important is because we often have a complex around goodness, kindness. Yeah. And we can therefore reject aspects of ourselves that do not fit a self-concept of us being kind and nice. And people want, like, you want to be liked by people, etc. And so this is also, empaths can be a sponge for other people's projections. Yeah. So if we're too open, other people just project on us, and then that's who we are. I am that person. Wherever that person's projected on me, that's who I become. Like, it's really like, it can be that instantaneous, right? And so if you are not in touch with your own shadow, it's easier to absorb the shadow projections of others. So we are doing our shadow work to protect ourselves from the projections of others. You've got to know yourself, right? So where your shadow is where your vulnerability is, because it's where you don't see yourself. It's where you don't know yourself. So it's another layer of protecting yourself without having to do block, you know, wall. You know, it's an actual way of trusting yourself, knowing yourself. No, I know what's mine. I know what's not, you know. It's not about good and bad, as we've said before. It's not about good and bad. It's about seen and unseen. And what cannot be seen cannot be utilized and cannot be healed, and cannot be alchemized into gold. Can't turn that into gold if I don't look at it. Yeah. And shadow is often a very rich ground for not only healing, but increasing our libido, our resilience, our creative life force, and your gifts. So your shadow is obviously where you are most vulnerable. It's all of the vulnerable bits. But it's also where the gold is oftentimes, as we know. We've seen it with the shadow, with the hero's journey. Yeah. Okay. So I want us to get into this practical. I'm really going behind now. So I'm gonna jump into this practical. I'm gonna give 10 minutes for this. So first thing is, list 5 words or descriptions that you associate with the word vulnerability. So some descriptive words. And thinking about when you do or when you have felt your most powerful. And what aspects of yourself do you often reject? So what parts of yourself do you often find are like, ugh, wish I wasn't like that? Yeah. Or you just, I wish I didn't do that. Wish I didn't feel like that. Yeah. And what ways could you draw on this more. Like, you know, is there a way that you can draw this in, pull this in? Yeah. Integrate it more. Okay. So I'm going to do the put the timer on. All right. I'll see you in a minute. Any questions, just give me a shout. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, let me stop the share. I have to say that's an incredible collection of cards you've got there, Alison. I hope you pulled a good one. Okay. You have to tell us. How did we find that? How was that exercise? Any surprises? As I'd like us to do, I'd like to, if anyone wants to be a little bit of a guinea pig, I can kind of show you some things, maybe, not always, doesn't always work. But does anyone want to be a guinea pig? Siobhan? Awesome. All right. So your first, just list some qualities that you associate with vulnerability.
I said openness,
Mm-hmm.
expression, freedom, sensitivity, and expansion.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I see a little theme there. And in your second answer, so if we talk about some of the places where you have felt or do feel most powerful.
Okay, so I said when I'm allowed / allow myself / felt safe enough to express myself fully, share my knowledge and value, and
Wow.
add value.
Wow. Yeah. And do you see the relationship already between the first one and the second one?
Yeah, I see it now. Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah.
How would you mention?
And then your last one, kind of what would be places where, yeah, you reject yourself, like to, yeah,
The
share.
last one I said is the soft feminine side. As a male / man, sometimes it doesn't feel right to allow myself to be soft and sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So I could allow myself to receive help, or firstly ask for it,
Mm-hmm.
and also just take it easy on myself and my body,
Mm-hmm.
prioritize rest and recovery,
Mm-hmm.
not spend every second of every day being fully engaged and stimulated and
Mm-hmm.
trying to get things done and moving forward. And I put a lot of pressure on myself, so I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the one that can help.
Wow. Wow. Do you see that? Because see, this was it. It doesn't always work like this, but then sometimes it works like this, and it's just very, very clear that the relationship between these different things, right? Which is that your place or the kind of association with vulnerability for you, Siobhan, feels like it's actually incredibly expansive. Like, I don't know, man, you said words like openness and expanse and freedom. Like this
Mm,
is like, whoa, like this is kind of it's growth. It's almost like this is the place of vulnerability, but it's also that is also what you associate with power, interestingly. Like this is a place where you can be yourself, where you can share your knowledge, where you can step into a place where you can fully be yourself and embody yourself, right? And I think it's
mm,
interesting, the place where you're maybe less comfortable is in this kind of maybe more receptive energy, this receiving, taking help, and this somewhat maybe the association is with being feminine. But it might just be an energy of receptivity, which might be the place of balance, yeah? Because obviously there's the place of expanse, and then there's the place of contraction, which maybe we could say being receptive, yeah,
mm.
and kind of just seeing that is maybe where the balance is to be found, um,
Okay.
and seeing where you can take maybe some of those aspects of your like your associations with vulnerability and see where you can start to help or aid or integrate some of those other aspects of the parts of yourself that you're rejecting, which is sounds like, yeah, it's very difficult to accept help, to be more gentle with yourself, to just almost give yourself a break, give yourself some
Mm,
rest, give yourself some time. Um, So yeah, I think that's really, really interesting. Are you can you see that? You're seeing the relationship between these things?
I do, yeah. When you mentioned it after the second question, I made a connection and I was like, oh yeah, it correlates nicely. So
And it
yeah.
might be that that third place is actually where your real like that's where the real vulnerability is, you know? And
Mm,
that might be where the work of balance is coming in, you know?
yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Yeah, just getting there is a bit tricky, but
Yeah.
in time.
And sometimes we don't actually even get there. We just touch on it and fall back. And
Mm,
then come in again. No, but seriously though, you know, but it takes time. This is no, that's what I say. This is when this is like embodied, it takes longer.
okay.
Embodiment is certainly not an overnight process. And there's layers and layers and layers, particularly when we have to unlearn so much as well. Um, so I think do what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. You know, again, this awareness, yeah, this kind of opening things up, looking at them, learning new things about yourself, is part of, yeah, the journey. So yeah,
Cool
thank you, Jim.
stuff.
Yeah,
Brilliant. Thanks.
well done, awesome, thank you. Then we might have time for one more quickly. Does anyone else kind of want to share, or did anyone else make that connection themselves? You don't have to. Alison? Yeah.
Mine were a lot more negative. I,
Interesting.
because I think my recent experiences with vulnerability was it not being met, etc., and stuff like
Mm,
that. But what Siobhan said, my gosh, yeah, that just feels like the other end of the pendulum, and that's what I was aiming and hoping for.
mm,
But I put for vulnerability, asking for my needs to be met, sharing 100% honestly how I'm feeling, going past your comfort zone, doing something that feels exposing. So
mm,
it's kind of felt like I was more tapping into the shadow
mm,
side stuff already
yeah.
there. And then finding what felt powerful, that kind of felt difficult because I think it's like last week with the hero's journey, where kind of Juliet didn't recognize she'd been through the whole cycle, and then you're back up square one again. I'm doing this with the power. Oh,
Mm,
sorry. And I'm there, but then it's like, oh, right, you're back at one or two again, and
mm,
just not recognizing enough that,
mm.
yeah, actually bringing in the power.
Where is it? I need to know, Alison. It's there. Where is it? Somewhere. It's
It is.
well, yeah, and it's probably the place that you're like, it might be subtle, you know, because I think we think power is like when I'm on top of the world, you know, but it might even just be that place where I guess what I'm thinking is maybe another way of saying it is the place that makes you feel most joyful. The place that like where you just go lose all track of time and I'm just in something. Like,
Mm.
where is that for you?
Oh, when I'm being creative, sewing, knitting, drawing, playing the piano, talking about spirituality. Yeah.
There you are. That's it. That's that
And
place.
I've done a number of workshops in the last 6 months, and actually, I found my power to be in my sexuality, which I still have to uncover, which is basically what your lecture was about today, really.
Right? Wow, I got shivers. Ah, like, oh, that makes me, oh, that's giving me shivers right up my, like both my arms. That's incredible. You see?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
yes, it's just releasing that and
Yeah,
just
that's when you're at your most powerful. You're creative, you're engaged, you lose track of time, you sharing with others, you're helping others. Like yeah. And then your last one?
Um, I wrote down a number of things, but the stuff that I'm rejecting is the harsh, the being rude, and that's actually the stuff that I need to put the boundaries in.
Mm. Hmm.
And then I put measuring competition energy, and then in that
Hmm.
moment I kind of recognize that that part just wants safety. And it was like, oh wow, so I can just try and create safety and hopefully that will
Yeah.
somehow settle.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that the kind of parts of yourself that you reject feel very related to your concepts of vulnerability. Like that, just you see that, right? And it
Yeah.
feels like creativity is a neutral space for you. It's kind of a place where maybe that protection is almost guaranteed because
Mm.
it's not an exchange. You're in a kind of process, I suppose. And maybe that's why it feels so empowering, because I feel like for you, there might be this thing of like, well, if I open up, but I don't get what I need, and then I have to be harsh, and I don't want to be harsh because I don't
Yes.
really want, like, you know what I mean? And that balance, that's where it feels
Mhm.
difficult. But right there in the middle, that sweet spot where you're in flow, in creativity, engagement with, yeah, these beautiful, like, yeah, like knitting, sewing, music, like real, yeah,
Mm. Very
yeah.
true. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I hope that makes sense. But yeah, it's really
It does.
interesting. Really, really interesting. So it's again, there's no right, wrong answer. It's just a kind of way of unpacking
Mm.
it a little bit and looking, we learn something new about ourselves, and then we
Totally.
can hold ourselves. Yeah. All right. So I know we're going over time, so I'm going to close there. Is anything urgent anyone wants to share before I finish today? I know it's been a big meaty one. So if anything comes up, just message in the group or you can message me privately, of course. And I will share the homework, which is just the rain meditation today, this time. So if for those of you who didn't watch the documentary, try to watch the documentary this week if you can, if you do find time. So yeah, let's finish together. Let's just take our hands on our heart. Let's just take a moment just to come back to this center, this place. If you want to, you can even place one hand on your abdomen, one hand on your heart, or both hands on your heart, whatever feels right for you. Just take a moment. Let's just take a few breaths just to come back into the center. Again, I know we've absorbed a lot of energy, a lot of information, a lot of talking today. But I want you to remember, reconnect with this place, this center, this part of you. You are the center of your world. The boundaries of your body are your domain. You choose what you can place here, what stays, what goes, what's right for you, what isn't. And just reminding your body to remember that. And so I want to thank you all again for being here this week. Beautiful, beautiful selves. Take very good care this week. And all being well, I will see you next week for week 5. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.